evening, my Trues Clues aficionados. I hope you all are doing well out there, taking care of yourself, doing what you got to do to get yourself moving forward. If you're seeing anything, saying something, as long as you're doing it safely. And tonight's story, all I can think of is the title would be like stale cereal, old cereal. But anyway, to me, it is a failure again on the part of law enforcement to enforce the proper laws to keep people safe. And I know that's a challenge. I know I'm not saying something that's new or different or something that's a task that cannot be accomplished if it's done correctly, I think. And in this instance, this is going to be a take on the show that I recently watched. I don't know how many of you watched the show, but it is about going back to November's. I gotta look at my notes to get some dates, guys. And then on November 2nd of 1985, Marceline fatally stabbed his girlfriend in Manhattan. He then took her dismembered body and put it in bags, and it was found along Central Park. He was later convicted and then released on lifetime parole in August 2019. And I think that's really where things start to go awry. I don't know how mentally sane, or did they do any mental sane testing on this person? I mean, he did serve his crime, but the crime sounds quite atrocious at the time. And I don't know what the current laws were in place in there, but it just seems kind of strange that he would have been released. But then they say a lot of people that have committed atrocities are released in society and we never know about it. Marceline has also, prior to arrest for felony assault in 1957, a booking in 1962, and a SA in 1963. Back in April of 1963, he was convicted of bang his girlfriend to death inside a Harlem apartment complex. And he was then sentenced to you stay in jail for the rest of your life. In early 1963, he was accused of R-ing his girlfriend, Jacqueline Bonds. At the time, he reportedly drank too often and did other stuff into his body that he shouldn't have been. He regularly assaulted Miss Bonds and was in and out of psychiatric care. Now, why you staying with somebody like that? I don't know, especially when you know you've been put in peril before. But as it goes, it ain't none of our business back then, right? Because that's how people looked at it. You know, what happened behind closed doors was behind closed doors. Then he did it again. And in 1963, shortly before he was due to appear in court before a grand jury on the R charges, he shot, he banged, and took Miss Bonds off the face of the earth. And I believe that was right before she was set to testify, you know, and what happened and how things went down and all that other good stuff, and required to get somebody put into the law enforcement system. And that's craziness. I mean, it takes two parties, it takes an enabler, and then, you know, somebody who just keeps hoping that they'll change and go on and ferment. And then things don't change, they get worse, and then people sometimes play an ultimate sacrifice. And this can happen on either party, but in this instance, I think that this should, you know, the past should have indicated that this person needs to stay where he is and not to come out anymore. Just stay where you are. And police report recorded that he chased her as she staggered through the kitchen and the living room. Bang, twice more before she collapsed on the ground. He was convicted of first degree and sentenced to life, but released in 1984. So, I mean, he keeps just doing as he wants to do, and you know, he pays a small price for it, and he goes on. Meanwhile, the people who love these people, the people who have them in their life, that cared about him, gone, never to be seen again, never to have any celebrations, never, nothing, no life moments. On Friday, authorities released a video of a person who they say was Harvey Marceline riding a motorized scooter and sitting on a human leg in the 99-cent store in Queens. So I think it's another thing of blatant entitlement where he did want something to be found, because who doesn't know that these video cameras are not looking for shoplifters in these places? He goes in, he casually sits there, and then he gets up and he steps out of the motorized thing and he just goes, leaving that piece of plastic there. So it's very easily to go back and connect him to it. Again, the sense of entitlement with people who commit these kind of crime. The sense of entitlement in people who commit these kinds of crimes. They also want, to be known for their handiwork and think that they're going to get away with it at the same time. But how often does that work? You would think. Okay, so he served prison time twice for offing 2 different girlfriends and was charged with second-degree criminal tampering of evidence and the concealment of a human leftover being. It takes a serial person off the street. This is just the latest of heinous offenses conducted in a lifetime by Ms. Harvey, and we can only hope she could do no more, Chief of Detectives said. Layden was captured on surveillance video entering Marceline's apartment near the crime series on February 27th. Marceline was seen leaving the apartment 3 days later with a big bag believed to contain her leftover human pieces. They say the suspect and the victim knew each other for the last 2 years. Authorities are still going through how the relationship came about, the real relationship, and what the real relationship between them was. Basically, he would tell people, he always wanted to have a girlfriend, as many times they do, and they would get together and he'd be like, you know what? I can be dangerous at times, I deserve and I demand this and I need that. So as soon as he considered himself henpecked or being treated in a henpecked manner by these women, it had the ultimate consequences to them, because it would piss him off beyond repair and he would take action. So that's why a lot of these people were people that he knew in his life and was around, and I guess he was pretty easygoing, or what he says, malleable and even taken advantage of until you push that final little string. And then he felt able to retaliate without any compunction at all. So he spent more than 50 years behind bars, and then he was released from the state prison in August of 2019 and is on lifetime parole, which I find highly laughable. And especially after, he fatally banged his girlfriend in Manhattan. He was later convicted and released after spending about 30 more years behind bars. He had another parole hearing, despite parole members saying he is a great danger to his community. They voted, you got it, to release him anyway. Seven on Your Side investigates wrote Marceline in a letter in jail. Instead of writing back, Marceline called on the phone to say she no longer goes by Harvey Marceline, but by Marceline Harvey. And at 85 years old, she is transitioned and now identifies as a lady, and liking those of lady parts too. He didn't care about pronouns or anything like that. He just said to me that Marceline had sort of a feminine personality, keeps a lid on Harvey, and keeps a lid on Harvey's rages. But sometimes he's pushed to the point where Marceline can't help anymore. I guess Harvey just erupts. So Marceline is then being housed in a prison with other women because of the way he says that he identifies. And I do remember reading about that when it happened, and I don't know. I just hope those women are safe, although, it is what it, I want to say it is what it is. It is a dangerous situation for women, I think. What can you say about it? We're not in a position to deem or to move these people around like they're chess pieces after all. But yeah, the man totally you know, would be cognizant and cohesive and get bossed around for a long time. And then at one point, he would lose his shit. And when he did, you better watch out. And ultimately, that's the way it went. And even though society knows that there's people like that among us, at times there's little to be done about rectifying that situation. And with that, I love you all.